All right, let's get right into it. Now, this isn't another attempt to solve the JFK assassination. You've probably seen 100 of those. Instead, we're going to tackle a different question, one that's maybe even more important. How is it possible that after all these decades, the whole thing is still such a complete mess? We're going to look at the very structure of that confusion.
So where do you even begin? Well, you have to start with the official story, right? This is what the Warren Commission came out with back in '64. Their job was basically to put a neat bow on it, to give the country some clarity, some closure. And their conclusion? It was as simple as it gets. One guy did it.
And the details were just as clean. You've got one rifle fired from one building. 3 shots are fired. Boom, boom, boom. That's it. Case closed. This was the story that was supposed to let everyone breathe a sigh of relief.
Okay, but if it was really that simple, why are we here? Why does this story refuse to die? The thing is, that nice, solid foundation, it started to crumble almost immediately. And we ended up in this bizarre place where not a single version of the story actually fits all the facts.
All right, first up, the evidence itself. Let's look at the actual stuff, the bullets, the wounds. You'd think this would be the easy part, right? Well, this is where that simple story really starts to fall apart.
Okay, you cannot talk about the JFK case without talking about this. This is the linchpin of the entire official story. It's famously known as the magic bullet theory. See, for the whole lone gunman thing to work, with just 3 shots fired in a few seconds, one of those bullets had to do some absolutely incredible, almost unbelievable things.
7. Just let that sink in. Not 1 wound, not 2, 7 wounds in 2 different people. The official story is that this one bullet went through Kennedy's back, came out his neck, then went into Governor Connolly, smashed a rib, shattered his wrist, and finally ended up in his thigh. It's a lot.
And here's the kicker. This is the bullet they say did all that damage. It was found on a hospital gurney, and look at it. It's almost perfect. Critics have been screaming for decades that this just doesn't add up. It feels like they had the answer, one shooter, and then had to invent this wild story to make the evidence fit.
But the problems didn't stop with the magic bullet. It was about the shots themselves. The Warren Commission said 3 shots, all from behind. But you had tons of people on the ground that day, and a whole lot of them swore they heard shots coming from other places, especially from that grassy knoll area, up ahead and to the right.
And this is a big one, the forensics. The doctors who first tried to save Kennedy's life in Dallas, they described a massive wound on the back of his head. To them, it looked like an exit wound, meaning he was shot from the front. But then, the official autopsy done by the military came to the exact opposite conclusion. All shots from the rear. How can both be true? They can't. And that fundamental conflict has never, ever been settled.
So the evidence is a mess, but what about the people involved? Well, if you thought the bullet was confusing, wait till you get a load of the key players in this story.
Let's talk about Lee Harvey Oswald. The official story just labels him a lone nut, right? A disgruntled Marxist. But man, that barely scratches the surface. This was a guy who was an ex-Marine who defected to the Soviet Union during the Cold War and then was just allowed to come back. The FBI and the CIA both had files on him. And maybe most importantly, from the second he was arrested to the moment he was shot, he never stopped saying, "I'm just a patsy."
And we never got to hear what he meant by that. Because just 2 days later, this guy, Jack Ruby, a local nightclub owner with ties to the mob, just waltzes into the police basement. In front of everyone on live TV, he shoots Oswald dead. And just like that, the one person who could have given us answers was gone forever. No trial, no testimony, nothing.
Okay, so the physical evidence is contradictory, the prime suspect is dead, so all you have left is the investigation itself, right? You hope the system can sort it all out. Well, as it turns out, the system might have been the biggest problem of all. This right here says it all. The government investigated the assassination in depth, twice, and guess what? They came to completely opposite conclusions. The Warren Commission in '64 says, nope, no conspiracy here. Then, in the late '70s, another huge investigation concludes, yeah, actually, there probably was a conspiracy. So, which is it? The government's official position literally contradicts itself.
So what on earth was going on? A huge part of it seems to be that the big agencies were protecting themselves. We later found out that the CIA and the FBI held back tons of information from the Warren Commission. Why?
Probably because they knew a lot more about Oswald than they let on, and it would have been a huge embarrassment. So the goal wasn't really let's find the truth, it became let's control the damage.
And this quote just nails it perfectly. Every attempt to close the case reopened it wider. Think about that. Every time the government tried to put a definitive end to it, they just made things worse. They created more suspicion, more questions, not less.
And that leads us to the main idea of this whole explainer. What if the confusion isn't just a side effect? What if the mess, the doubt, the endless questions, what if that is the point? This is a concept called the architecture of confusion.
So what does that mean? It doesn't necessarily mean there was some grand single conspiracy. It means that the system itself, with all its screw-ups, its secrets, its CYA moves, ended up building a situation where clarity is impossible. The confusion wasn't an accident on the way to the truth. The confusion became the final product.
And the effect of that, well, it was massive. You can draw a straight line from the JFK assassination to the way we think about government today. It was a turning point. Before this, people generally trusted what the government told them. After, that trust was shattered, and it's never really come back.
So why should you care about something that happened so long ago? Because this case literally wrote the playbook for modern skepticism. It made it normal to doubt the official story. It taught us all to look at a major event and immediately ask, okay, but what are they not telling us? The question stopped being just who did it, it became what are they hiding? So let's leave you with this final thought. For more than half a century, everyone's been asking, who killed JFK? But maybe that's not the right question anymore. Maybe the real mystery, the one that truly matters today, isn't about who pulled the trigger, but about why the powers that be made sure we could never, ever be certain of the truth.